when you hold a financial asset, uh, now what qualifies as short term, what qualifies as long term? That is one question that is being asked. And what is the kind of tax rate on profits? If we could just break down a little bit on,
So,
for
we now
the.
need to, yeah. So the law is very interesting to say now. Classification of a long-term asset depended upon the period of holding. Some assets qualified as long-term capital asset if you held for 12 months. Some assets qualified for long-term capital asset if you held them for 24 months. And the remaining assets qualified as long-term capital asset if you're holding them for 36 months. I'll give an example of each of this. Listed securities, let us say I'm holding shares of Infosys or Reliance or Wipro. 12 months holding was sufficient to make it long-term. If I had an immovable property being land or building, it was long term if I had held for 24 months. If I had held, let us say, gold jewelry, I need to have the gold jewelry held by me for 36 months to call it as a long term capital asset. These are three existing classifications. And the tax rate was 20% maximum on long term capital gains. Short term capital gains, you had a tax of about 15% if they were listed securities, or you had liable to pay tax at the normal slab rates. So what they have done now? I'll come to the short term capital gain. That's an easier way to answer. Short term capital gains on listed securities. We were liable to pay tax at 15% originally. The FMS said they shall be now taxed at 20%. They have increased the rate of tax. 20%. This is one part. Is easy. This is easier to understand. Now look into those securities that come into the 12 months holding period. All listed securities, all business trust units, that therefore the REITs and others, and certain of the equity-oriented mutual funds units will be long-term capital asset if they are held by you for more than 12 months. Earlier, the tax, if you had paid securities transaction tax, you're liable to pay tax only at 10% on this long-term capital gains. Now you're going to pay tax at 12.5%. Therefore, in relation to listed securities, you will have an increase in rate of tax. The mechanism of computation doesn't undergo a change. Therefore, you're going to pay higher tax on listed securities. Therefore, there's already a worry and cry in the market concern that you're asking us to pay a higher tax than what is happening. I'm liable to pay security transaction tax. I'm also liable to pay the capital gains tax at an increased percentage, not a significant increase, but up to 12.5 from 10%. There's already a clamor other way around to say that, look here, the banks were crying that their bank deposits are suffering tax at the normal rates. When I earn interest from a bank FD, I pay tax at the normal rates. Therefore, the banks were asking for, hey, there is already, because of the differential in rates of tax, monies are moving to mutual funds and shares. They're not coming into deposits. So either give us a concession rate of tax for the clamor for the bank's concern. Now, to draw some level of parity, instead of reducing the rate of tax on interest income, the FMS said, I will increase the rate of tax on the capital gains income from 10% to 12.5%. This is what she is doing that. This is one part of the story as far as listed securities and units of the business trusts are concerned. Now, all other assets, you are going to have a holding of 24 months only for being regarded as long-term capital gains. Or gold jewelry, which was earlier 36 months, they'll be long-term if you're holding it for 12 months. Property anyway was 12 months only. They're also therefore going to have a long-term capital gains on property income if you're holding it for more than 24 months. Interestingly, on all these long-term capital assets, you are allowed to index your cost of acquisition. That benefit of indexation is now removed by the finance ministry. You can't index your cost of acquisition. So your sale price minus the actual cost, the differential will be capital gains. And earlier you were liable to pay tax at 20%. You will be now liable to pay tax at 12.5%. So this is interesting. The rate of tax has come down, but the mechanism of computation has undergone a change. So you pay 12.5 a lower tax, but without the benefit of indexation. Under the earlier regime, you had the benefit of indexation, but you paid a higher rate of tax at 20%. So I made a statement that therefore it depends upon individual situations concerned whether you will be benefited by the new scheme or going to be hit by the new scheme. One. I made a statement that if you are holding an asset for 24 months, this will be long term, and you're liable to pay tax at 12.5% only. But they have picked up certain assets concerned, unlisted securities and others, which say they come under a new section called as 50AA, where they say if you're now going to fall under that new section concern, although it's a long-term capital gain, you're liable to pay tax at normal rates of 30 on the slab rates itself. You'll not be able to get the benefit of concessional rate. And therefore, in these type of assets concerned, you are liable to pay a higher tax than was earlier, although you call yourself to be saying, hey, I am holding a long-term capital asset. Therefore, there's going to be some disadvantage in holding these type of assets itself. So there is, that's why I made a statement, not just a very easy
All
statement
right.
the FM
Uh,
meeting,
hmm.
not an easy statement to say. She said, I'm very simplified the capital gains. No, not that easy concern. Not that easy.
Not simple at all.
Not
All
simple
right.
at all. And she's also
Any final thoughts, Padankinda sir? You were also speaking
incidentally,
about TDS.
incidentally, I'll also make a statement that you're
Yeah.
entitled to an exemption of 1 lakh for long-term capital gains on listed securities. That has been increased to 1,25,000 rupees. That's the way she's gone about. TDS rates, what she has done now is there are some sections where liable to do TDS at 5%. She has consistently reduced that TDS rates on the various sections concerned. Now, many of the sections where she has reduced the TDS rates don't concern us in a regular practice. The only thing that's therefore concerning us would be on brokerage and commission. When I was receiving the brokerage and commission, the company paying me commission or brokerage was liable to withhold tax at 5%. They'll now do a 2%. So there are many other sections concerned where the TDS rates have come down to 2%. And in e-commerce transactions also, where there is a e-commerce operator who's making a payment to an e-commerce participant, he was earlier doing TDS at 1%, that will come down to 0.1%. That's the only change. That may also not concern most of us. Most of us are only concerned with the withholding tax on brokerage and commission, which comes down to 2% from the erstwhile 5%. Salary withholding, no change in the withholding rates of tax. Small technical changes are there, may not concern majority of us today. And small changes in partnership firm, they've said that if you're having a working partner, you will have a change, increased salary deduction. Earlier, the law was saying 3 lakhs, up to 3 lakhs of book profits, you will have particular rate of taxation. They have increased that limit to 6 lakhs. So 90% of the profit up to 6 lakhs will be available as a deduction on a very generic way, and the balance profit will qualify for 60% of salary as a deduction. Again, for some partnership firms, therefore, only try we need to convey is that you'll be able to claim a little more salary as a deduction while computing the firm's income. Again, a very technical question. Some partnership firms will have a benefit, not a very great benefit, some marginal benefit.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Padankinda sir, for joining us on India Today
thank
SoSouth and
you.
simplifying various aspects of the budget and especially the taxation part of it. We look forward to having you again on our show. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Pleasure talking to all of you. Thanks.